When we set up our contact, we also added a requirement to that contact, which we called a deal. And that deal has now gone into a pipeline. And as you can see in front of you, what I'm now looking at is the pipeline module, which I have selected on the left. And I'll just minimize that to get it out of the way. And over here we can see our pipeline, which is the sales pipeline that we're looking at. And we're looking at all the open deals, and we're looking at Jane Brown's pipeline because I assigned this deal to Jane Brown as the salesperson. And that's blacked out because we haven't selected any. We can look at this in a grid view like we're looking at now. And we can also look at it as a list there. If we look at it as a list, we have various actions at the side, and those actions are replicated over here. So let's just have a look at those actions. In a few places, you can send an email, and depending on which place you choose from, will define who you send it to. So for instance, if I select the action email to all from right up the top here at the pipeline, I can email everybody in every single pipeline stage of this pipeline. However, if I press the email button here, I will be emailing only to the people within this stage of this pipeline. And lastly, if I press the email button just here in the deal, I'll only be emailing to Donald Trump. So it's worth remembering what where those emails are, just in case, and so you know what to do. So the deal is within this pipeline stage, and this is the first of a number of pipeline stages. And this pipeline stage is called qualified lead, and it's just landed in here. It's a qualified lead, but in fact, I'm going to move this over to here by just dragging it, and the reason why I've done that, let's just go into the deal by pressing this over here. The reason why I did that is because I'd already started to make some selections and send some properties in the last video when I added Donald Trump as a contact. And if you remember, we had, when we looked at the contact details, 3 matched properties matched to the requirement. And this is, of course, the requirement that we're looking at. And we can see those same 3 matched properties. We also emailed a couple and marked them as showed properties, and we can see that these are the properties that we have showed now to the contact. And perhaps we've now talked to the contact, and we can move that one a little bit further because the client said he liked that property. So we'll just like the property there. And now if we look at our liked properties list, we'll see we've got 1 property in there. We'll see both the properties that we had in the showed list still. And we'll see all of the properties in the matched list that are matched. We could actually see all properties on the system here as well. So let's have a look a little bit more about what we could do over here. We could send an email directly from within the contact, which will send an email with Donald Trump filled in and the deal filled in so that it logs against the deal. It'll send to Donald Trump and log to Donald Trump. I could add a few properties here if I wanted, and that we can go over in another video. I could also add an event. So let's do that now. We've got Donald Trump pre-selected. We've got the deal pre-selected. And it's pre-selected me as the user, but actually what I want is I want my colleague Jane Brown to deal with this. So I'm going to ask Jane Brown. I'm going to attach a property to this as well. So I'm going to attach, let's say, that property. No, that's that property. And I'm going to say, does he like the helipad? And I'm just going to send it really as an internal note between myself and Jane, just to ask her that question. I'm not going to set a priority, and I'll put a date. I could put today's date on it, and I could add some notes here. Perhaps some things I want to appeal to the client, and let's just mark that as not completed and save that there. So we've just easily added an event by simply pressing add an event there. And we'll see what happened to that event a little bit later. But it went into our own events calendar, into Jane Brown's events calendar, and it's registered against the property, the deal, and the contact. We can see that the deal is currently in stage 2 as we moved it in the sales pipeline, and we could move it to another deal, another stage from here. We could opt this deal out of any workflow automations if we want to from here. We might already have opted the contact out of any workflow automations, in which case that would override this. So if the contact is opted out, he would be opted out of the deal anyway. Over here we can see a few more tabs. We can see any scheduled events. So in fact we've got Jane Brown scheduled on does he like the helipad, which we just put in, and there was another event that we put in when we added the event, the contact to the system, which was what he thought about this particular property over here. We can see a log of everything that's happened, so right from when it was added, then etc. Events in the deal, etc. And any automations that might have been played out on this deal. So the deal is really the best place to manage this the buying process from, and it's nicely convenient to see them work through the pipelines. Oops, wrong pipeline. There we go. And to drag them on. So from finding the selection and going through the stuff, maybe Trump has decided to go through viewings, so we're going through a viewing stage. I'm adding events that are, let's say, viewing events as well. So let's say Trump's going to view this one. I've just written some, probably more than I needed to. Viewing property vendor out, we'll make this into a viewing, and maybe I put high priority on my viewings, and of course it's not completed yet, and this viewing is, let's say, at 12 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and it's probably going to last me, I don't know, an hour maybe. So, oops. So 12 to 1, and we're going to do it tomorrow, let's say and let's add a little note to ourselves about that too. So we added a little event there about Trump's house because we've added a viewing there, and we can go back in and see that viewing, in the scheduled events as well. I stuck my mouse there. So the next stage might be some further research after the viewings, and your pipeline moves a little bit along, and maybe after that second research, then he's really going to be seeing the really hot viewings, and then finally, let's say he's made an offer. So let's move him to a new pipeline, which is our offer pipeline, and we'll move him to offer made. And let's have a look at our offer pipeline, and we can see Trump's deal is now in offer made, and as you can see, we can move him over to offer accepted. And when we move him over to offer accepted, whoops, I pressed on him by accident. And when we move over to him to offer accepted, we can also drag him down here to offer accepted. And this is simply to put in the property, which is, I don't know what property it was, but a sale price. And this is not the completion date of the property. This is simply the date we've completed this offer acceptance, and we'll press offer accepted on that. And then this deal can move to the next stage. Now you'll notice in this next stage we've got some little things, a new little icon here, and if we click on that, we will be able to see any tasks that are pending in this pipeline stage. So we can see that Donald Trump's deal has got 3 things that we have to tick off when it hits this pipeline stage. Signed by seller, signed by buyer, and down payment received. So we can also have within a pipeline these tick boxes, and the pipeline, the tick boxes need to be ticked in order to, or before you go on to the next stage. They're basically there to allow you to remember any process that you're going through, that needs to be gone through with that. And then we can move to the next stage, which is prepare the notary. And then finally, once we're out of the notary, we will be able to complete the sale of this, and then we can be on to selling the next thing.